Welcome to Trimet 101. Today we're going to be talking about Trimet, finally, and I'm going to be mentioning express and limited stop routes. Trimet used to have a bunch of these. Now, even to this day, we still have some express and limited stop routes, but it's just not the same as it was from 20 years ago. Thanks to Forward Together, bus service will get a lot better in the Portland area. But there is one huge downfall that Trimet is overlooking. Any route that skips stops at all, and many routes that go on a highway of some sort to skip large chunks of stops, will just cease to exist. All the Marquam Hill routes, the 30E, the 94, the 96, all canceled. Hopefully that doesn't detract from new riders. But I do have an idea. Keep the idea of express and limited stop routes and introduce more. Even if it's just rush hour only and peak direction only that these sort of buses run, I would be fine with that. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to keep the whole Forward Together thing in mind, and I assume you know what the Forward Together thing is. I'll put a map up on screen of what Forward Together looks like. And I guess I should probably link that in the description as well, so that you can get familiar with this, because there are a lot of changes and there are a lot of things that are going to be unfortunately discontinued. Some of it quite soon, as in September. Let's start off with the Marquam Hill routes. So we know that lines 61, 64, 65, 66, 68 are all going to be discontinued and replaced with all-day service from lines 43 and 56 being rerouted into OHSU rather than going into downtown Portland. So I have some ideas that I'm going to say throughout this video that I've gone through the painstaking effort of writing in my script all the stops for all the express routes that I would do. So we're going to start with the Marquam Hill routes, the 43 and the 56. So the 43E, this would run peak direction during the rush hour. It would go toward Marquam Hill in the morning and toward Tigard Transit Center in the evening, sort of like line 64, but a little more Taylor's Ferry Road. So I will black out the screen and put a list of all the stops that I would serve. These are all of them. Every single stop on there. That would be line 43, and you just switch direction if you're going the other direction, and this is what I'll show throughout the video. So that's your list of stops. So I'll do that throughout this video. I will say the line number and where it goes, and then I'll just give you a list of stops, because if I actually start reading out every stop, then this video is going to take 3 hours before I get done with it. 56E. Now this would also be during peak direction going toward Marquam Hill in the morning and toward Washington Square in the evening. The buses would not travel beyond Washington Square. So during Forward Together, line 56 is supposed to be extended all the way to that Progress Ridge, I believe it's called. But these Marquam Hill trips would not go that far. I'd like to talk about some other routes that are related directly to Marquam Hill, because there are other routes that are going to be canceled and will not be getting all-day service to OHSU. The 44E. This would provide sort of normal 44 service. This one's a little bit hard to explain, but it starts up in Mox Crest or whatever, does that section pretty much normally, but starting at the Rosa Parks Max station, it will begin to go limited stop. Then, after downtown Portland, it will do express stops all the way to its final destination. So I don't know if this is official yet, but through Forward Together, line 44 is going to have 3 southern end destinations. Either Tigard Transit Center, PCC Sylvania, or Wilsonville, Commerce Circle. So all 3 of those destinations could be used. So here is the list of stops. I'll give you all the list of stops, but after the Barber Transit Center, if the trip goes to Tigard Transit Center, it would do kind of what today's 64 or 94 does and briefly go on to I-5, which is weird. But the trips to Tualatin Park and Ride, there would be no stops at all between Barber Transit Center and the Tualatin Park and Ride. So it would jump onto I-5 and stay on I-5 all the way to Tualatin Park and Ride. There would be no intermediate stops because you're on I-5, and that would be really dangerous. 54E. This one provides limited stops until Barber Boulevard, and then it goes express all the way to the end. And the 54E would be peak direction only, going toward Portland in the morning and going toward Beaverton Transit Center in the evening. The 9E. This provides limited stops on Powell Boulevard between downtown Portland and where the Max Green line is. This bus will run in both directions. The 9E will go in both directions, but it will do so during rush hour only. So here's your list of stops. After Powell and 92nd, it serves just normal stops all the way until Gresham. The only special part is between OMSI and Powell and 92nd, where it only serves some stops. Line 75E. This provides limited stops, almost exactly like Line 66 on Cesar Chavez Boulevard, just like how Line 9E would provide similar service to the 66 on Powell Boulevard. And then it goes express on McLaughlin Boulevard to Milwaukee with no stops at all. So it serves the normal stops along Cesar Chavez from St. John's all the way until 42nd and Killingsworth, and then it serves only some stops. After the last stop there at Johnson Creek and 45th, it'll go all the way to McLaughlin Boulevard and long hauls it all the way to Milwaukee City Center with no intermediate stops. Let's move on to some other important routes that are not related to Marquam Hill at all, but are something that I think people would use. Something worth noting is that there are a lot of east-west lines that cross the bridges of Portland, and a lot of these lines are frequent service. But it's important to kind of have them all behave slightly differently, because if you have all the bus lines just serving the same stops, then no bus line really has an advantage over the other. But if you have a bus line that skips a huge stops distance, and then you have another that's providing a little bit more service, and then you have another one that's just serving random stops, you have different options for skipping over whatever you need to skip over. So there's variation in the amount of express, even though a lot of these routes run parallel to each other. Line 12E. This is going to look very, very similar to anybody who's ever taken Line 94 out of downtown Portland. It serves all pretty much limited stops except for City Center in downtown Portland. The stops along Barber Boulevard are exactly the same as today's 64 and 94, which unfortunately will be canceled soon. But this bus also serves limited stops on Sandy Boulevard. So you get that faster service for the entire Line 12 instead of just the Barber segment. And the 12E would run during rush hours only, I guess, but it would run in both directions because it's kind of a long route, and the downtown Portland happens to be in the middle of Line 12's route, so both directions, rush hour only. I'd like to see it all day weekdays, but that's probably just wishful thinking. Line 14E. This will be identical to the former Line 14E, Hawthorne Express. It's exactly the same as it was back in the day. It skips everything west of Cesar Chavez Boulevard, and then it serves local stops in downtown Portland and on the other side of Cesar Chavez Boulevard. This would be peak direction only, so it would go toward downtown Portland in the morning and toward Foster and 94th in the evening. So yeah, it pretty much just serves the west side of the river, and then the next stop is Hawthorne and Cesar Chavez Boulevard. It skipped a pretty decent chunk of the east side. Line 15E. This would sort of be a 23rd Avenue limited stop. It would be the only chunk that would get less stops. So everything from Gateway Transit Center all the way until West Burnside and 23rd would be exactly the same as we see it today. And then you just get a couple of stops on 23rd Avenue. And then, because Forward Together, they want to extend the 15E over to St. John's, there would be trips to St. John's from here. Line 20E. Now this one's really confusing. Everything from Beaverton Transit Center to Sunset Transit Center is normal and remains unchanged. Then from Sunset Transit Center to downtown Portland, there would be no stops at all. It would just not serve anything. I originally would say, yeah, let's have it go on Highway 26. But number one, Highway 26 gets really congested, and number two, there's a stop I want to serve that you can't really get to from the Sunset Highway. From Sunset Transit Center to downtown Portland, there are no stops at all. Then you get limited stops on the east side of Portland after you cross the Burnside Bridge. Stark Street gets all local stops because the Max is nearby on Burnside. And then after Mount Hood Community College, there are no stops at all between Mount Hood Community College and the Gresham Central Transit Center. And after 242nd, buses will use Hogan Drive to get to the Gresham Transit Center. Next line is the 33E. This would be a super express and serves a very small number of stops. I put McLaughlin and Roth, or Ruth, or however you pronounce R-O-E-T-H-E. I'm not sure if that's the exact stop. It's hard to tell on the Forward Together map exactly where this is, but line 144, the future 144, has a transfer that seems to go across McLaughlin Boulevard, but I can't figure out exactly what road it is, so I think it's that street. But yeah, as you see, it is highly, highly, highly express. The 35E. It would be a normal line 35, except that it would be express south of Portland. And this would run during peak direction only, so really toward University of Portland in the morning and toward Oregon City in the evening. 52E. This is another super express. It's only express from the Willow Creek Transit Center to PCC Rock Creek. So it will serve all stops between Beaverton Transit Center to Willow Creek, and then it just long hauls it all the way up 185th straight into the PCC campus. The 57E. 57E trips do not go to Forest Grove. They only travel between Hillsborough Transit Center and Beaverton Transit Center, and it goes in peak direction only. So it goes toward Beaverton Transit Center in the morning and goes toward Hillsborough Transit Center in the evening, and it serves those stops. This is very similar to the old Line 91 TV Highway Express that existed in the 90s. But because there are some new housing developments that have gone up in the Reeds Crossing area near Cornelius Pass Road, I would say, yeah, I've kind of altered the stops a little bit, but in general it's pretty similar to the 91. And the 62E, once again, taking into account Forward Together improvements and that this bus is going to Tigard Transit Center, we're going to provide limited stops until Hart Road. So basically, all the way from the very beginning, it'll be limited stops, just every once in a while it'll stop, until Hart Road. Then it'll go express to Tigard Transit Center. So between Sunset Transit Center and Murray and Walker, it'll actually go on Highway 26. It'll come out of Sunset Transit Center, go on to Highway 26, and then when it gets to the Murray exit, it'll take the Murray exit. Then after Murray and Hart, it'll go on to Shoals Ferry Road and onto Highway 217, and the next stop will be Tigard Transit Center. It will go express, no intermediate stops between Murray and Hart and Tigard Transit Center. 71E. The whole route just kind of provides limited stops. And that's kind of it. It's just a bunch of limited stops. Okay, now time for another weird one. 72E. This one runs express from Clackamas Town Center all the way to Woodstock Boulevard. Then it will serve all local stops on 82nd Avenue And then once it goes on to Killingsworth Street, it will serve limited stops all the way in through North Portland. But after Killingsworth and MLK, it will serve all stops from there all the way until Swan Island. 76E. This provides express service to all the major destinations only. Yes, the West kind of does this too, but the 76E will serve a few more destinations, and I imagine it won't just be for rush hour only. Highway 217 is also used heavily for this route. Between Beaverton Transit Center and Washington Square, it will use Highway 217. Then, from Washington Square to Tiger Transit Center, also Highway 217. Then, after 72nd and Bonita Road, it will go to Tualatin Park and Ride by using Carmen and I-5. Then, after the Tualatin West Station, buses get to Meridian Park Hospital by using Tualatin Sherwood Road and Nyberg Road. Line 79E. This is yet another super express. The route is literally called Clackamas, Oregon City. So this provides more I-205 service. This bus literally serves 3 stops. It just long hauls it on I-205 straight to the Oregon City Transit Center, serving no intermediate stops, except for, I guess, the one at Clackamas Town Center Mall. I also made another video a long time ago where I had some express buses that traveled between certain transit centers or major areas. I might end up redoing that video because I wasn't exactly happy with how it turned out, but I do think that there needs to be some sort of from one transit center to another transit center, but express service. I do think that should be definitely left on the table. But that's kind of hard to implement, but I had those as line numbers in the 300s, so I might revisit this topic on a separate video, but for now, I thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.